So this is our first shot at the NFL draft. Outside of what Buffalo did, what's your overall impression?
I like what Atlanta did. I know a lot of people did not like it, like Duffy will in 5 minutes.
Everybody's talking about Atlanta.
But here's the thought process. Then I get it. Kirk Cousins, older quarterback. I get all of that stuff. Look at where the league is going. The shady sort of story that came out after that 18-game season, which we've been talking about for the last few years now. 2 bye weeks, which is, of course, hopefully the NFL implements that. This is not a position at quarterback, which they did draft Michael Penix, and I get it. You can have just one guy that makes $100 million. You get a guy like Penix to learn the NFL system under a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's a class act guy on the field and off. You know Kirk Cousins' career is not going past those 4 years. He'll be lucky if he gets those 3 years. If Atlanta's got a chance at this right now, put it all in. And if they don't, maybe you get a good quarterback out of it at the end.
Just to cap the Atlanta discussion, I'm going to roll this back at you. Do you owe anything to Michael Penix? It'd be fair to a guy who's like, he's what, 25, 24 in there somewhere? And the window that you have to pay a rookie contract, you're wasting that and you're hurting him.
Well, I mean, listen, you're giving him an opportunity. You know full well with the NFL season, you need a backup quarterback. I've been singing this for years. You got to have two. You can't just have one. This is not the 16-game season and playoffs anymore. You have to be ready to have somebody come in there. And who better than a kid who can show whether or not he can play in the NFL? That's the way we're going right now. Look at a number of quarterbacks that are basically, you know what? Jets, number 2 overall pick. He can't play. We got to get him out of town in less than 2 to 3 years. Where does that put Zach Wilson?
Your overall look?
Oh, well, I think that move was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in the draft. But
the
beyond
Jets
that,
drafting him?
No. The Falcons drafting Penix. But beyond that, the amount of teams based on offensive players, receivers especially, taken in this first round that are going to be having massive busts on their hands 2 to 3 years from now. Because we talked about this, right? As the Bills were looking for wide receiver, the biggest bust rate amongst players is wide receiver. And it was obvious during that draft that as soon as somebody, a general manager, saw a trend going one way, boom, all of a sudden they were running that same way. The runs on things were just happening over and over again, which is why I think Penix went where he did. This could be one of those drafts that we look back on 10 years from now and go, there are 2-3 players in that first round that were impact players, and the rest of them, what the hell happened?
Wow, with 6 of the front 12 being quarterbacks.
Right, well, yes, but that makes the most sense, right? Like, there are going to be 4 quarterbacks in those first 12, just statistically, that we go back and go, what were you thinking taking him here? I mean, look at the Josh Allen draft, right? Baker Mayfield, pretty much shot. Sam Darnold, he's getting another chance, but he's pretty much shot. The 2 good I don't even know what Josh Rosen is doing right now. The 2 best quarterbacks taken were the 2 that had the biggest doubts in Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, right? And Lamar Jackson was almost a second-round pick, for God's sakes.
So, I think it's a rush to find the next big guy that will be a part of your franchise going forward and getting him under it. I think that was the move by Atlanta. I still think it'll pay off down the line with the way the NFL season's going.
Yeah, and to that point, it's like an arms race. I mean, how was the game, what was it, first 19 or 14 or something were offensive players.
Yeah.
How does, with all of this, like an arms race, how does this change the way the game's played?
Well, I mean, I think you have to have depth. I think Buffalo, in all regard, we'll talk about them in a matter of moments. They have depth at certain positions, but it's replacing guys that you know will keep that contract for 3 or 4 years. And can they play in the league? If they can't play in the league, they've got to go. And they'll just start drafting younger guys. You'll see the devaluing of the running back. Same sort of situation. You can go get a running back in the 2nd and 3rd round. Look at where Corum went overall and be able to continuously move your offense. I think this changes the league where they're going to find out whether or not you can play in 3 to 4 years and you will not get a second chance.
Football is a living, breathing mechanism. 10 years from now, it'll be a 15-run defensive player when some 30-year-old guy shows up as the defensive coordinator and revolutionizes the way you play the game.
I don't think it's 10. I think it's 5.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it'll be sooner than we think.
You mean the defense will come back?
Yes.
Yep.
So this isn't a permanent trend?
No, it goes back, and we see it happen all the time, right? West Coast offense then leads to defense doesn't matter. Then all of a sudden, blitz packages and what happens in Baltimore leads to you need to have these defensive players. And all of a sudden, you have these high-flying quarterbacks that can't be stopped. It moves. It breathes.
It was to that point. Wasn't it just like it was 2 or 3 years ago where like the first 4 or something or other guys were all defensive and everything? Oh,
yeah.
We lost a lot of quarterbacks within the last couple of seasons, so they know the value of quarterback. They've got to protect them a little bit longer, but it will swing back to defense.
Man,